count, there were 194 million telephones in the United States for a population that hovers around 280 million people. Only about 1% of the population is not connected. NBC's Bob Dotson has a story of one small town that seems to have a hang-up about being in touch.
Out here, rivers sparkle like winter stars. And the air smells like it was just made. Denny Boyd grew up in asphalt meadows, dreaming of such a place. So 15 years ago, he left city life to open a store in the mountains of western Washington. But he neglected to notice the small print in his dream.
This is the South Fork of the Stillaguamish. I was going to tell you that it was a Native American term meaning no phone service, but...
You probably wouldn't believe it, but Silverton, Washington is one of the last towns in America where you cannot make a phone call.
Bill Gates made the statement that there's absolutely no reason that everybody in the world shouldn't have internet access. If I can go online from Zimbabwe, why can't I make a 911 call from Silverton, Washington?
It may look remote, but it's only 65 miles northeast of Seattle.
Everyone would just assume that this close to a big city you'd have telephone service. And it's just really the end of the road and they got left out.
Even though 250,000 cars drive by Boyd's store every year.
Robert 81, radio check.
In emergencies, drivers rely on the sheriff's radio. Denny's wife, Diane, keeps on their side porch.
There's times when the radio won't work at all. People would come here and we'd end up having to drag them and their bloody body parts down to their lot. And that's not that fun.
If the Boyds aren't home, there are a couple of options. Climb 4,500 feet to the top of Mount Forgotten and try to find a cell phone signal, or drive 20 minutes to the nearest payphone. Sometimes it's so clogged with coins, the only call it will take is to the phone company. And then you wait an hour or so for someone to come out and empty it.
Silverton did have a phone service once, a century ago, when nearby gold mines made it a boom town. But the phones left in the 1940s, when the mines played out.
How are you doing, Jerry?
Really great. We came to get all the news from you.
Oh, really?
The 50 families who still live here have been trying to get that service back.
They were going to charge each person $10,000 to $15,000 apiece.
Because Silverton now sits in a national forest, so phone lines would have to be buried for 11 miles. The federal government has a pool of utility taxes that covers the cost of extending phone lines to rural areas. Even so, the profits here would be so small, most big phone companies didn't want to bother.
I'm the phone man. No, not just kidding.
Jim Olson and his wife Jean have lived in Silverton for 48 years.
Could I borrow your phone? No, I'm just kidding.
He worked all his life for a phone company.
And you don't have a phone?
Yeah, it was an escape. It was one way I could get away from my boss.
You could call in sick if you had a phone, though.
Well, that's true.
This fall, they may finally get one. A tiny Seattle phone company called Beaver Creek got a government grant to do the work. With the subsidy, basic phone service in Silverton will cost just $30 a month.
Good morning for that ranger station.
So Diane Boyd won't have to work at the ranger station 10 miles from home just to hear a phone ring.
Very exciting when the phone rings.
Laying the lines is scheduled to begin this spring after the snow melts. By fall, the Boyds could get their first dinnertime call from a telemarketer.
I think there's something on there that you can just pull out the plug, can't you, if you really don't want to have to hear anything? Isn't that? Or it does not work like that anymore. It has been a while since we've had a phone, so...
I'm in for a lot right now.
Oh, they'll get the hang-up of it.
Bye.
For today, Bob Dotson, NBC News, Silverton, Washington.
And we are back in just a moment, but first, this is Today on NBC.